Bing bong, welcome to another episode of Undisputed Nerds. I am your host, Zane Show. As always, I am joined by Do you like my dramatic pause there?
I like that it seemed like you were pausing because you forgot what your name was.
See, last week you said you didn't like the captain bit, so that's where I was like self-reflecting.
Oh,
I was like,
see.
do I do it?
Cut it out for me. Yeah, you got to do it. You got to do it. It drives me nuts every week. You've got to do it. Surely, it's just part of the course. It's part of the course.
Ladies and gentlemen, as always, I am joined by my fantastic co-host, the Gentlemanly Gamer. How are you?
Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone in Radioland. I'm good. Thank you, Zane. Yes, I am good. We are recording. This is what we give to our viewers and our listeners. We are recording this on Christmas Eve as we speak.
Yes.
It is ding dong merrily on high. In heaven, Zane and Gent are singing, and we are singing to everyone out there. Yeah, it's good. Are you prepared for Christmas, Zane? Have you got your stockings on?
Have I got my stockings on? Wow, the stockings are up.
Yeah, the wall, right? The wall. That's what we were all thinking.
They're up. They're all filled, all mounted.
Mounted?
I don't know. What do you do with stockings? Do you mount them? Hang them? You hang them, don't you?
Hang them. I know exactly where your mind went immediately. I don't actually have stock. You know, when I was younger, my parents. This is a keen insight into my parents and how much of a greedy little child I was. When my parents didn't have stockings when I was younger, so in order to bring like presents in, sorry, not my parents. I mean Santa.
Yes.
When I was little. And they used to give me presents. They didn't use stockings. They used pillowcases. So I used to get like stock full of pillowcases. I was like, that's genius. You can get more in there. You can get more in there. And there would always be just a random orange right at the bottom of the pillow.
That's not
like as a little brat I was. I'm just looking through, yes, good presents. Orange, forget that. So yes. Christmas is coming. Christmas is on high. I am excited, and you know, in the festive Christmas spirit, we are going to talk today about some Christmassy things, and then something that's not really Christmassy at all.
Yes, you could say that. Today we will be addressing Hawkeye and Matrix Resurrections.
Addressing Hawkeye with stockings, and then. And then talking about Matrix Resurrections. Yes, so we're not going to do our usual tips and bits this week, guys, because there's so much this week that came out. We need to cram in. We figured we'd just do a double bill of reviews and goodness. I say reviews, I mean reviews and catch up and talk about the future of things and where we see things going. So yeah, well, I think we're gonna start with Hawkeye this week. But just before we get onto that, I just want to keep a recurring segment going, which I brought up in last week's news. I'm going to keep it going. As far as I'm aware, Nicolas Cage's it's our classic "What's Up with the Cage" bit this week. So he's celebrating Christmas with his family. I just thought I'd drop in a little bit of fact here. Nicolas Cage has been married 5 times.
Wow,
I know, including to the daughter to Lisa Marie Presley.
See, I thought I heard that. I wasn't sure if it was a real rumor or
no. He was
factual.
Actually married to her. We've been over. I think we've spoken about this before on the podcast. But he's obsessed with Superman. He's also obsessed with Elvis. He's absolutely obsessed with Elvis. So everyone saw him marry Lisa Marie Presley in 2002, and we're kind of like, is he just married to just have it away with Elvis's daughter and say he did? Because they didn't stay married very long. I think they were married like a year. So Cage has had his heart broken 4 times, and his current wife Rico Shibata, he's been married to for a year. So I'm not saying that he skims between wives, but let's see who number 6 is going to be. Anyway, this has been your weekly Rage in the Cage update. There you go.
There we go.
All right. Well, should we talk about Hawkeye then?
Yeah, let's get into some Hawkeye action. should we talk about it as a series now, or do you want to talk about the last episode first?
No, let's talk about it overall, because we talked about episode 1 and 2. If you want to go back and listen to our previous podcast, we did a full episode review and breakdown of episode 1 and 2.
Yep.
Yeah. So this series is wow. Like, well, first of all, let's get our usual rating system going. Overall series, disputed or undisputed?
I'm going to say
for
undisputed.
You,
for me
undisputed.
Personally, yeah.
I would agree with you. So I can't decide if this is my favorite Marvel series. I
nice.
As far as like Disney Plus is concerned, I loved Loki. Like, I really loved Loki. However, I can look at it and I can go, there was one episode of Loki which was quite a drag, which is when they're on the planet that I can never remember the name of, that's about to be struck by a massive asteroid and be destroyed. It was a bit of a drag episode, even though there were some amazing moments in it. I don't recall any drag moments in the series in Hawkeye. It was amazing.
True. Yeah.
Not just that, but like also people, normies who we talk about, Zane, normies like my wife and like, some friends of mine, they have said to me that this was their favorite Marvel series.
Wow.
I even had one guy today say to me that he liked it more than anything, including all the Netflix Marvel series as well.
Wow.
He said it was better than Daredevil, better than everything. So he loved this so completely.
Yeah.
I can't compare it to the Marvel Netflix stuff because it's a totally different kettle of fish.
Yeah,
that's an English expression for you guys. Sorry, but I loved this series. I thought it was fantastic. We talked about it in episode 1 when we did the review of episode 1. I have a theory about Marvel that they have a serious problem with Phase 4 and beyond. In that they cast Phase 1 to 3 so well, so perfectly, and that original group of Avengers, the core 6 plus like Loki as like a baddie from that era, because he basically took the journey with them because he's in so much of the films. I love seeing them on screen, and I love seeing those personalities, and I love seeing those people. So for me, seeing an original Avenger in this, I immediately had like a little bout of nostalgia, thinking, "Oh man, like I love this, and I love Jeremy Renner being here." And this series did a really good job of making me miss Scarlett Johansson.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, to give a Zane, do you want to? I'll tell you what. Let's do it this way, because I'm normally the one who yarps on about this kind of stuff. Why don't you tell us what the overall story was of this TV show?
So I think the best thing to describe this is that it's a reflection of Hawkeye in terms of, similar to the comic book, it's his life as a weapon. So it kind of breaks down his character, what makes Hawkeye Hawkeye, what separates him from other heroes. Also, how does he deal with the fame and everything else around the association of the Avengers and being aka Hawkeye. I think the brilliant thing that this series did as well is giving weight to his journey as Ronin. Like it gave him like a real sort of guilt motivation, which is, dare I say, more of a Daredevil trope.
Funny you should say that.
I know, right?
Of course,
yeah.
It's not just about Clint, is it?
No, it's not just about Clint. It also introduces Kate Bishop. What I really loved about this series as well, because again, a lot of friends have told me out of all the Avengers, Hawkeye was never their top pick. But after seeing this has really opened their eyes of what the character was, and everything else. Yeah, because for a lot of people whose first experience to the Avengers is kind of like, okay, you've got a super soldier, you've got a guy in a tin suit, you've got everything else, but then you've got a guy with a bow and arrow. And this series just kind of goes, yes, this is a man with a bow and arrow, but look at the lengths he's willing to go to, jumping off a building. He's willing to still stand to fight against aliens. And it's that kind of like penny drop moment is amazing.
Yeah, I'm always just to hinge on that point for a little bit, because I always feel kind of like a bit, because Hawkeye, whilst he is just a guy with a bow and arrow, they really underplay how incredibly skilled he is. I mean, he's basically bullseye in the sense of like he never misses, or very rarely misses, very, very rarely misses. And it's like he is just a guy with a bow and arrow, but then like Tony Stark's just a guy in a suit, and then also like Black Widow's just a woman. Like it's like I mean it's like
I see you saying yeah.
So like I mean they do go to great lengths. Of course, based on Rogers the musical, we all remember Ant-Man being in the original lineup of the Avengers as well. But I think it was more an idea of like that. This show felt very much like two things to me. It felt like the closing of a door on the previous Avengers. To say like that they're done. Like there's not going to be. You will never see that lineup again. Like it is done. So I think that's what the first thing of this series was just to say they've done what they were supposed to do. They've saved the universe. They've been hailed as heroes. That's it.
Yeah.
But the other side of it was to also show the inspiration for what they have given to the world, which is now what we're starting to see the fruition of, i.e. Kate Bishop, i.e. Yelena Belova, probably Kamala Khan. We're seeing for lack of a better word, the fangirls of the next generation. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah.
So I thought, personally speaking, Jeremy Renner, try and say his name right without Jeremy Renner was fantastic in this. Like he was. This is probably one of the best things I've seen him in, because he's like, sometimes he can come across as like not really giving a monkeys about. He's one of those
Bruce
actors.
Willis.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Sometimes he goes full Willis and just doesn't care. I saw an interview with him famously where he was with Brie Larson, and Brie Larson is talking about like using her fame for like positivity and all this other kind of stuff. And like he just looks really bored next to it. Like he looks like he's going to fall asleep. And then he gets asked the same question and he just goes, "I don't use my phone for anything." And that's it. The interview's just like, okay. So yeah, the only other time I've seen him properly, like fully, like I don't know whether it's because of lack of opportunity or whether it's just because. Well, no, that's not true. Actually, I'm being a bit unfair to him, because he was in the Avengers films. He has been very good. He didn't really have that much to do in Avengers 1.
Yeah, this is the thing. He doesn't have a lot of material to go by because, like you said, Avengers 1, he's turned. Avengers 2, he has like.
He's got more about his
family. Yeah,
he's got quite a big part in Avengers 2. Plus, he's responsible for again inspiring Wanda.
Yeah, I was just going to say, giving Wanda the pep talk.
Yes, so he's very good at his inspiration. He is. But yeah, we don't really. I mean, when you think,
War,
well, yeah, he's barely in it, isn't he?
Yeah,
he's barely in it. Yeah, I'm just trying to think of like. Because then in Endgame, obviously, he's got a massive part. That sounded wrong. That sounded weird. I mean, he's got a large acting part in Endgame.
Yes.
Back to stockings. And he basically in Endgame, that's his true emotional weight in Endgame is dealing with kind of the loss of Black Widow and how she's always been better than him. But yeah, anyway, I thought, regardless, whatever is the case, I thought Hawkeye was fantastic. Like I loved the series.
What surprised me as well, I had a moment where I was like comparing it to the other series, like you mentioned earlier, and for me, I was like, isn't it crazy how different it felt compared to Falcon and Winter Soldier? Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Winter Soldier.
Yes, that one.
Yeah, again, I don't know whether it's because I enjoyed the having an original Avenger in there. I don't know. I don't know what it is. It's just I think there's like whenever I see any of the six, it's like, oh yeah, that's an Avenger. And then whenever I see people like Falcon's technically an Avenger. Captain America now. But like I just don't feel like he's an Avenger. I just don't know why. It doesn't inspire me in the same way. I don't know what it is.
I felt like the series could have been a movie as well, FYI.
Yes and no. I mean, there was a lot of points to it. There's a lot of kind of twists and turns in the show. They've modified quite a lot from the Matt Fraction run, which was fine. It's an interesting thing. I'll tell you what is interesting is so speaking of my friends who really enjoyed this, so I have a nerd friend who I won't give a shout out to because he'll never listen, but he is somebody who absolutely despises the MCU in the sense of it's not pure like the comics are. So he's a purist comic fan. So if things deviate from the comics or anything like that, he hates it. And the Matt Fraction run of Hawkeye is one of his favorite stories. We're talking like sacred cow that cannot be touched kind of stories of all time. So he was extremely unhappy about seeing like this being adapted and this series. And I watched the first 2 episodes, and obviously I've loved this. And I said to him, "You really should watch this because they haven't. Obviously, it's not completely stuck to the source material because they couldn't because of how Hawkeye is written. Because in the books, he's kind of something of a joke character, not a joke character, but like he's more lighthearted and more humorous, and he cracks one-liners. His personality is more. I always think of his personality more in line with the Flash from DC. Like he's kind of like that kind of jokey, punchy Wally kind West of person. Sort of, Exactly, yeah. But in this, he's obviously been set up as a family man and that kind of jazz. So I said to him, just watch it because they've taken enough out of the Matt Fraction to keep it genuine to the book with enough Kate Bishop that you're going to love, but also adapting it into what they've written for Hawkeye already. And he loved this show. Like he loved it. And this is a guy who normally does not like anything to do with the Marvel side of things. And I think it goes to show the quality of it when like big old nerds like us adore it and just fawn all over it because, well, we will anyway because it's comic book stuff. But then normies go, that was really good. Like, that's really, really good.
I think it helped that they had Matt Fraction on as like a consultant. So if you watch like the credits, his name pops up as like some sort of consultant. I can't remember if it's like an exclusive consultant or...
I thought it was like creative consultant, wasn't it? Or
yeah. So I think that helps massively as well.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, it was his
vision,
life as a weapon is his baby, so it's like it would make sense if they're going to adapt it. We'll do a quick overview of the series, obviously, because so as Zane alluded to there, it's about Kate Bishop and also Hawkeye trying to, I guess, put to rest his period as Ronin. I wonder if they're going to do I wonder at some point if they might try and do a series of like that blip period where he is Ronin. And we get to see the damage that he did to the underworld because he obviously made a lot of enemies. Although I did find it weird how it's like, when we meet him, he's in like Tokyo taking down the Yakuza. And like in this, he's like, it's like, oh, he did so much damage in New York. Did he? We found him in Tokyo, so that's weird.
Jet setting everywhere.
Yeah, no kidding, right?
But I guess it kind of, there's been so many questions, of course, about the way this ends as well. So again, spoilers, but, with the arrival of Kingpin, it's like, was he able to do so much damage because Kingpin was blipped? Was he able to do so much because Daredevil was blipped?
I don't think so. I think it's the opposite. I think Kingpin wasn't blipped. And I think because he wasn't blipped, I think he was able to consolidate his power and get a stranglehold on New York. I think I wouldn't be surprised if they tell the story of something along the lines of like, well, we don't. Okay. So first of all, we don't know how. So spoilers, obviously, guys. Sorry, just a heads up. Kingpin is in this. Vincent D'Onofrio as well. Not just any Kingpin. Vincent D'Onofrio from the Netflix series of Daredevil is in Hawkeye. He is officially in Hawkeye, which ties into another spoiler from something else, which I won't mention at this point in time in case anyone hasn't seen it. but yes, Kingpin being in this was a big deal because it was the first appearance of a character from a Netflix show.
Yes.
In this universe, in the MCU.
Mm-hmm.
The question I have for you, Zane.
Yes.
Is this the same Kingpin that we've seen in the Netflix series?
It's interesting you should say that because I saw an interview today where Vincent D'Onofrio said it is the same one.
Is it? Is that what he said?
He said it's the same one, but this is the thing. I don't know if that's his interpretation or the official word for Marvel.
I think maybe he acted it the same as if it was, but I don't think it was. Because this Kingpin seemed OP. AF. He was buff as hell. Yeah, I mean, so that if it is the same Kingpin, then that would mean that, because this is where it gets a bit timey-wimey, loopy, crazy. Because Feige, I don't think Feige wants anything. Is it Bob Iger who's the guy who used to do that? Who was the guy who used to? Was it Jeff Loeb who was the absolute?
Yeah, he had all the TV
tosser. Yeah, that's the guy who wanted to do the Inhumans, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that guy. So I think Feige wanted to steer as far away from his influence as possible. And I'm pretty sure he said that, because I remember an interview with Feige saying that the Netflix shows are not canon. They don't belong in the MCU. And I think that's a really smart idea, to be perfectly honest with you, because you can't really explain away a giant hole in the ground that the hand made and nobody paid attention to it in the MCU. Bearing in mind, Tony Stark was supposed to be around in those days. Yeah. But my idea, because somebody was talking about this earlier on, and they were saying, I read a comment section was talking about Hawkeye, and they were saying, "Oh, the Netflix shows must be part of the MCU because the invasion, the Chitauri invasion, took place on it." And I was like, "Well, that doesn't mean anything though, because as we've seen from What If, it can be one decision that skewers an entirely new reality." So that was my idea of like, well, the invasion might have happened up to a certain point, and then maybe Luke Cage didn't get experimented on, and that's what, and that's the thing that didn't happen or did happen that creates an alternate timeline. I don't know. Because I'd be really shocked if they do use those characters exactly the same, because the Daredevil Kingpin run in the Netflix show was pretty brutal for MCU side. And it's, I just don't, I don't see Kingpin crushing someone's head in a car door in the MCU. You know what I mean?
But it's funny you should say that, because I watched the first episode of Daredevil today, which I know what a lot of you thinking, that's not very Christmassy, but it's my Christmas Eve, so get over it.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm coming in hot.
Suck it, nerds.
Anyways, but like you were saying, like, even the first episode of Daredevil, where it's about human trafficking and Daredevil stops that. It's not very PG. It's very possibly 15. Like,
it is. I think it is a 15 rated on Netflix. You're right. Yeah, it's just extreme. Like, it's really hard because that first episode has the fight in the rain as well, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
Where he's like bleeding like from the mask completely. Like, that's brutal. That's a properly brutal fight. But yes. Anyway, sorry. So going back to Hawkeye, I think I really. We are going full spoilers with this, by the way, guys. Obviously, from the Kingpin reveal, so we'll talk about the show as a whole. I really like the idea that Kingpin was pulling the strings of Bishop's mum. I like the idea that they've gone with, because obviously all the theories were pointing to Swordsman being the bad guy, and then he wasn't. He's just a puppet for her. She was kind of manipulating him. I question, because in the books, Swordsman is the one who. So for those of you who haven't watched the series, I don't know why you're watching a review of Hawkeye now, but go away and watch it and come back. But in the books, Swordsman is the guy who originally trained Hawkeye. And I wonder if they're trying to set up now so that Swordsman is going to be the one who trains Kate. Like, so if they can't afford to get Renner back again, then they get the guy from Narcos to come back in, and he's Swordsman. But I wonder if he'll have some kind of influence over her this time, because they seem to be quite tight by the end of the show. Like they seem to be like on each other's side and
they
fighting
really
together.
kind of like almost. I know throughout this series they were setting him up as the red herring, but I like the sort of turn at the end where he was getting involved with the fight, where he's like, "Oh my god, a fight's happening! I can use my swords. Let's go!" Like, you know what I mean? Like just in it.
Yes, I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
So yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, I liked that dynamic, and I liked their relationship. I liked that he wasn't just a one note, like, oh, he's done now, that's it, and you know he's got set up and that's it, like he's gone. I really liked the way that they played with what is the mum's name? I just keep thinking of her as Mrs. Bishop.
Jelena?
Yelene? No, that was Belova. Oh God, who is it? Eleanor Bishop. Yeah, I like that she was like kind of stone cold about all of it. Not Steve Austin. I mean, like, like as in like, you know, because she's the one who killed Armand. She's the one who killed that guy and set up her fiance for it. And she's like properly ruthless. But then still with this loyalty to her daughter. And I guess that's kind of the mirror of Kingpin, because he's obviously completely ruthless. But then he also has this love of his daughter. So we shouldn't really go any further without discussing Echo, who featured very heavily in this series as well.
And we're getting a spin-off?
Yes. So Marvel have announced that they're going to do an Echo series. So Echo is a superhero in the comic books. I don't know too much about her, but I know that she's the adopted daughter of Kingpin in the comics. And she uses like sound vibrations, like she uses them as a weapon, I think.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah,
and she's a competent fighter as well, all round. Yeah. What did you think of the Echo performance in this? What did you think of the actress and her performance as Echo? Has it made you interested in the series?
Yeah, I thought Echo was great. A nice, strong female lead. Great backstory. Overcoming, you know, the difficulties. Again, it mirrors Daredevil in so many ways, because again, he has to overcome his disabilities to become the hero that he becomes. It's funny you should mention a friend of mine who you may have seen on Twitter, because she put a tweet about it, sent me a voice note how, you know, she's interested in Echo now. So shout out to Melissa, I should say. So yeah.
Hello, Melissa.
Yeah, so she sent a voice note saying how this series has got intrigued in characters like Echo, and if there isn't a spin-off, she's going to be watching that. But one of the other questions she had was, what's the hype of Kingpin? Like, what's the significance? So I had to like...
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So my wife and I, my wife is a normie. She's not a nerd like I am. And but she adored the Daredevil series with me. She absolutely loved it.
Nice.
So when she saw Kingpin on screen, she was super hyped, like super hyped, because she knows like she obviously knows about him from the books, from the show. Sorry, not from the books, from the show. Kingpin is like I mean, as far as like ground level, street level villains are concerned, Kingpin is he's a big deal, man. Like, he is a big deal. He's primarily a Spider-Man villain normally. Like, he's normally a Spider-Man villain. He does feature extremely heavily in Daredevil because it's this, you know, they're all in New York. But as far as like kind of ground level underworld bosses, you could say he's like the Penguin of the Marvel universe. He's, you know, he's got his fingers in every pie. And yeah, obviously the Tracksuit Mafia. It was interesting that they were using the Tracksuit Mafia and just using them as like a bad group. I was thinking at some point, because when we first saw them in like episode 2, I think it was, and Echo had them, I thought they were going to be like a wing of Kingpin's organization that Echo was in control of, because obviously Kingpin's reach stretches far beyond just one gang. Like, he's, as I said, he's got fingers in every pies. So his big fat fingers in every pies. Like, I really thought that the Tracksuit Mafia would be like a gateway drug for like other gangs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
As
Like
soon
a
as I saw
recruitment
Kingpin, I was
process.
like, oh, the last episode we're going to get like heavily trained mercenaries that are going to come out. And it was kind of disappointed that it was just more Tracksuit Mafia. I was a little bit disappointed in that because I think they, in a way, they kind of undersold how big time the Kingpin is supposed to be.
Absolutely, yeah.
But then, yeah, he had a big fight with Kate at the end, and it was properly awesome, and I loved it. I really enjoyed the fact that they all segmented off into their own individual fights as well. So you had Echo fighting the person who betrayed her. You had Hawkeye fighting. Actually, spoilers again, guys. You had Hawkeye fighting Yelena Belova, which we'll touch on in just a second. And then you had Kingpin fighting Kate Bishop, and Kate Bishop beating him by the skin of her teeth because of stuff that Hawkeye taught her.
By the way, a great callback using the cufflink that's emphasized so much on the first season of Daredevil.
Oh yeah, she does use his own cufflink against him. And the arrows, the trick arrows. So we didn't talk about this, but in episode 3, one of the my favorite things in any of the series that I have seen so far happened. So I'm a big fan of Ant-Man. In case you guys couldn't tell, I love Scott Lang. I love Paul Rudd's portrayal of Scott Lang. I think it's amazing, and I enjoyed the first. I loved the first Ant-Man. Second one wasn't so great, but I mean, I just love Paul Rudd.
Isn't it?
Yeah, and I love, for some reason, there's something inside me that loves when he makes things big and little. I don't know what it is. I just really like it. That's how it comes as well. Anyway, in this episode, we find out that well, first of all, the shocking thing about that was that Scott Lang has apparently learned how to make Pym particles. So he can make Pym particles now, because Hawkeye at one point says, well, they shrink a van in the final episode, and it's got people inside them. And Haley Steinfeld's like, well, how do we get them back? And then he's like, I'll have to ask Scott about that. Which is like, obviously they have a relationship and they have a setup that he's giving him Pym particles to use in his arrows. But in episode 3, man, does he use it in the best possible way. So you get this situation where
it's the Kate
is discovering trick arrows for the first time, and what trick arrows can actually do. And one of the trick arrows, Hawkeye tells her to just fire right up into the air. Which I think is just a normal arrow. It's a normal arrow. Fire the normal arrow straight up into the air, and then he uses a trick arrow, and it's a Pym particle arrow, and it makes the arrow in the air giant. And I geeked out like you would not believe when that happened. It was amazing. I was so happy to see it. What do you think about his trick arrows and the emphasis that they put on that he's not just a one note kind of like, because we've not really seen proper trick arrows from him, apart from maybe the grappling hook arrow I think we've seen, but apart from that,
and the exploding one on Loki.
Oh yeah, yes, on Loki, but that's it. We haven't really seen any proper, like this one we've got like acid arrows and sonic arrows and netting arrows. Yeah, we've seen loads of them. So what were your thoughts on emphasizing that Hawkeye is not just a one trick pony?
I thought it was fun. It was great to see him make them, because again, it shows that Hawkeye is a smart guy. He's just not like any other guy sort of thing, if you know what I mean. So yeah, it's fun seeing him build more trick arrows. It was fun seeing the variety of arrows, because like you said, from rocket powered arrows to ones with expanding balls and spinning darts on them and stuff. It was all fun, and I'm kind of glad that they saved it for the last episode instead of it being like the answer to anything and everything in each episode.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yes, exactly. I did like as well in the last episode, because there's a bit in episode 3 where Kate says to, when she's using the arrows, she says to Clint, "Why haven't you labeled these things?" And then in the final episode, when they're making the trick arrows, she uses a label maker and makes labels for them. I was like, "That's great! That's such a good way around to do it." There's there was some other kind of interesting things in this as well, because so. It's hard to talk about this without mentioning Spider-Man No Way Home, which kind of went on at the same time, but Stark Industries pops up in this very briefly, because Hawkeye's got some Stark tech still, but there's no other mention of there's no other mention of Stark or any kind of Stark Industries stuff.
Mm.
For those who have watched No Way Home, Stark Industries is kind of on a bit of a sabbatical at the moment because of the controversy of what happened in Spider-Man Far From Home with the London attack, with the drones and everything. So I was wondering, do you think that this is and also after the events of No Way Home as well, do you think this is the universe's or the MCU's way of moving away from Stark technology as being the kind of solve all to everything? Because it's kind of, like all the baddies are kind of fixed with Stark tech in
I was just going to say, yeah, that's always been one of the biggest criticisms, isn't it? Like,
yes,
all the villains seem to inherit or in some shape or form be powered by Stark tech, or they're motivated because they were mistreated by Stark Industries in some shape or form.
Exactly.
So yeah, I think it's good that they're moving away from it. Also, it'd be interesting to see if something else would just replace it. So, I know the biggest theory is the Baxter Building. Maybe the Baxter Building would buy Stark Tower or Avengers Tower, or if there is going to be an Oscorp in the near future.
Well, we know that it doesn't exist currently in this universe, does it? Oscorp is not an entity in this universe. I don't think we will. I think Oscorp is. I don't think Oscorp is going to be the big bad for Spider-Man moving forward. I really don't. I think the big bad's going to be Venom, probably. I really do. Sorry, tangenting off from Hawkeye for a bit, but I think they've covered Green Goblin with No Way Home. I think they've done it. They've managed to find a way in to make Green Goblin extremely personal to him. There's nothing. I mean, aside from killing Gwen, there's nothing he can really do to make it more personal than what happened in No Way Home. So,
absolutely,
I don't think so. Let's go back to Hawkeye just briefly and talk very quickly about the other big surprise that was in this series, which was Yelena Belova turning up. So the last time we saw her was in Black Widow, which was it was her full introduction, really. Let's be honest. And at the end of that, we got a post-credit scene where she was being hired to hunt Clint Barton. And it seemed to be no problem for her because she seemingly blames Clint Barton for Natasha Romanoff's death. I thought Florence Pugh was one of the standout performances in this show.
Absolutely.
I enjoyed her in Black Widow, but I was also questioning how she was ever going to kind of replace Scarlett Johansson in the sense of that Black Widow role, because Black Widow kind of represented the almost like the linchpin for all the heroes. Like, they all loved and respected Natasha. And I couldn't really see how Yelena Belova was going to fill that void. And then I understood it in this show, because there was something just so really cool about her, but also really relatable in the sense of, like, she kills people, but she does make really good macaroni and cheese. And
it is a very charming role. Like, her comedic timing, or everything else, and at the same time, it's things like you say, like relating back to that Black Widow movie where she says, sit down, eat. It's what my daddy says, and you're like, Red Guardian, like, So it's like you said, there's still relatable things where even when Kate Bishop's like, we should go for cocktails after, and she's like, I want to go for cocktails, but I need to kill Clint Barton first. It's it's kind of like the girly girl is there ready to party, but the mission comes first.
Yes, exactly. I mean, there's a couple of good things. So Kate and Yelena have a big fight in Yelena's mission to try and find Clint. And it's the subtle, like, nuances and like bits that you get, because look, we all know at this point in time they're going to do Young Avengers. They're setting it up to do the Young Avengers. Whether they do an all-female, I'm wondering if they're going to do an all-female-led Young Avengers, by the way, because when you think about, it could be. They could call it A-Force instead, because look at the casting that we're getting. Ms. Marvel's coming up. Young Avenger. Kate Bishop, Young Avenger. Yelena Belova, Young Avenger. Cassie Lang is probably going to be Stature at some point. That was the other thing that was interesting as well that I thought about having the Pym stuff, is that probably Clint is probably going to be the introduction for Kate to meet Cassie at some point, and that will be their connection, I would guess. But the thing that I really like is the subtle things. Like in this, she'd always called her Kate Bishop, like the whole way through. And it was a way to remind her that she knew everything about her, and Kate knew nothing about Yelena Belova. But then after they were fighting and gradually through the fight, there's at one point when they get kind of close to the end and she just goes, Kate! And it's like, she doesn't say Kate Bishop. And I was like, that is awesome. It's like, just through fighting the hell out of her, she's finally getting her respect and it, like, annoying her enough that it's like, no, just stop. So yeah, I thought it was fantastic. The relationship between Haley Steinfeld and Florence Pugh in this like makes me actually excited for the future. Like I look forward to seeing them on screen. I really do. Obviously Yelena does have a fight with Clint and beats the out of him. I do wonder if because obviously Clint knows who she is, I do wonder if Clint pulled his punches for her. Do you think that he, because I feel like Clint Barton, Hawkeye, as an Avenger, I feel like he could have absolutely wiped the floor with her if he wanted to. Like, realistically speaking.
I think he could have gone toe to toe with her, but I think for him, he was kind of like, there's no point. Like, I just need to get through to her, sort of thing. What did you think of their conversation? Because I've seen mixed reactions on the combo between the two.
Which combo was that? What did you say? Sorry.
You know, the conversation where he kind of like tells her what happened to Natasha and.
Oh yeah. You know. Well, I mean, it is kind of hard to believe that she would kill herself. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you're his sister, you don't really want to hear the fact that, like, yeah, your sister did whatever she could to kill herself in order to save everything. That's probably not the best message to get across. I mean, I liked that he used a whistle that only she would know, kind of thing. It's weird because I do question why Natasha never explained how close she was to Clint. You know what I mean? Like, how they literally have been through everything. I don't know. I don't know. It was an interesting thing. I mean, you know, I'm glad it obviously played out the way it played, whereas she came to her senses and then didn't end up killing him. We all know. I think we all really knew that she wasn't going to kill him. But no, I'm excited to see where it goes next. Will she then go after the people who hired her? I wonder. You know, that's the question. Or will they come after her?
That's an interesting point. Can we talk about Kingpin in the alleyway? By the way,
we can. We can. I was gonna finish up with that because obviously there's Jack the swordsman then goes off with the LARPing crew.
Yes. I like how he calls it a leisure activity. Is that some sort of leisure activity?
Yes, a leisure activity. Yes, that was. Do we think the LARPing crew is going to become a big deal? Do you think they're going to be like they're going to be the next Thunderbolts? You know, they're just going to be hired under the radar.
No, thank you.
Okay, yeah, we could move on to keep it. There's two massive things that happen at the end of the episode, which I found very surprising. So first of all, Kingpin, he gets cornered by Echo, who shoots him. Now, I will, and my wife said this. Yeah, you never see him die. Yes, and that's always the key. You never see him die. I believe I can't remember which book it is, but I believe he does get shot by Echo in one of the books, and he goes blind. I think. I think he loses his sight because of it, or something like that.
But he has like surgery to have his eyes back and stuff.
That's it. So I don't think he's dead. I really doubt he's dead. They're never dead unless you see their body. I don't think the higher ups at Marvel would bring Vincent D'Onofrio in to use him for an episode and then kill him off. I don't think so.
That's exactly my thought. Yeah.
I did like that he was rocking the which Spider-Man book is it? Is it from I can't remember which Spider-Man book it's in, but basically he's wearing the Hawaiian shirt with the white hat. That is a classic Kingpin
Alex
comic
Ross
look.
painting as well, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll pull it up in a second because I had to send it to someone the other day.
So whilst you're pulling that up, the other thing that was really surprising, really surprising about the end of this episode was we finally got the meaning behind the watch. So throughout this, so the whole setup was that the whole setup for this was that there was a black auction that was going on, black market auction that was going on in the basement of the building that Kate Bishop's mum owned, and it was like this weird, like dark auction where they were selling prohibited items like, you know, ancient dinosaur skulls and all this other kind of stuff. And they were selling Ronan's suit. Yes, that's it. Family business. There you go. That's the one. Family business. Look at that. What an outfit. Yeah, he gets shot through the chest and it doesn't even phase him. I was like, that's not Netflix Kingpin. He would have been dead if that was Netflix Kingpin. Yes. So that's what happens in the books. Yes. So yeah, the whole plot of the show, as Zane explained earlier on, was between the two of them, but it all gets triggered by Kate Bishop wearing the Ronin suit that was being done at this black market auction. At that auction, they also are selling off a watch,
Rolex.
And nobody understands the significance of this Rolex, but everyone is super interested in it. The tracksuit mafia are after it. Like everyone's after it. So whilst all the hijinks of the Ronin outfit and sword is going off, and like Kate and Hawkeye are trying to get it back, there's this mysterious watch that's flinging around in the background, and we finally found out what it's all about. So, Zane, do you know what the significance of the watch is?
So on the back of it was the shield emblem, dare I say?
Yes.
And the number 19, if memory serves me right, engraved.
That is correct. Well read. Yes. Do you know why that's significant, though?
I think from memory, it's to do with Mockingbird, aka Bobby Moore.
He's so hot on it. This guy can read quick. Yes, it is. That is Agent 19 is the code of Mockingbird, Bobby Moore, which means that Laura Barton is actually Bobby Moore.
Beautiful.
Not, which means Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is not canon.
I think we knew that for a while.
Did we know that? Because bearing in mind now all bets are off with the fact that the Netflix people have shown up. So you never know. But like the fact that like that is pretty much confirmed now that like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. did not happen in this universe. It is a variant universe where Coulson lived. Kind of makes me sad, if I'm honest with you. I kind of wanted to see Phil Coulson come back. I really did. Although I know he died at the end of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Sorry, spoilers for that. He dies at the end of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. But even so, it's interesting to get that kind of lockdown. Would you have liked to have seen more Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or
no? I couldn't get into it. I watched the first season and I was like, this isn't for me.
That's a shame, my friend. That is a shame. I will say right now, season 4 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was phenomenal. Oh, wow. Phenomenally good. Yes.
Was that to do with the Hydra stuff?
Yeah. No, the Hydra stuff's like first series, like halfway through first series.
Right.
Because the first half, that I agree, the show was really boring, and then Captain America Winter Soldier happens halfway through that series. So then the Hydra reveal happens that they're all in S.H.I.E.L.D., and that's when you get that like one of the main characters in the show turns out to be an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., an agent of Hydra, and it's all this big like twist and everything. But no, series 3 is all about Inhuman stuff, and then series 4 they introduce the Darkhold.
I see.
And so it is what it is. I kind of am disappointed they're not going to bring back the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. in any capacity, like, because there were some great characters in that show, including Quake.
Quake was a fan favorite, wasn't she?
Yes, she's amazing. Daisy Johnson and what's Chloe Bennett. Oh, lovely Chloe Bennett. She's a gift that launched a thousand nerds into the air, if you get my meaning.
I hear what you're saying. That last scene though, with Clint and Laura in, at having Christmas, felt
Yes.
very green screen. Did you get that vibe?
A little bit.
I don't think they were both there on set at the same time.
I would severely doubt it. Yeah, I would be surprised. Apparently, the rumor is that they are confirming, or they've yet to confirm it, but Hawkeye's done very, very well, very well, and so there's probably going to be a second season in 2023.
Wow.
So I don't know what story they'll adapt for it.
Mm.
Obviously, the Marvel slate is pretty heavy now until 2023, with obviously Ms. Marvel and Iron Wars and whatever, however many other series they've got going on. Ironheart, yeah. No, Armor Wars. Sorry, Armor Wars and Ironheart. I've mixed the two series together because they're doing that Don Cheadle-led Armor Wars.
Yes.
But yeah, I'm excited to see another season. It'll be interesting to see where they go with it. I'd actually quite like them to, again, like I said to you earlier on, I'd quite like them to do a Ronin exploration where it's like, it's not this, they just look into what he did in that 5 years and how he took out the networks. But we'll see. We'll see if Renner wants to come back for it. So, suffice to say, if you haven't seen Hawkeye, guys, and you've listened to all our spoiler reviews and you don't care about spoilers, go and watch the Hawkeye series. It is probably, in a lot of people's opinions, I'm not sure, I still am on the fence about it, but it's probably the best thing that Disney Plus has done for the Marvel content out there. This series is incredible. And all the performances and the acting and the surprises are incredible as well. So go and watch it.
Absolutely, yeah. It's definitely one of the best adaptations from a source material, like directly from the book and such. I guess we got to go straight into Matrix now.
Yeah, let's go into the Matrix then. All right. So, full disclosure, guys. We, as in me and Zane, do not know what each other thinks of the Matrix Resurrections. We watched it separately. I think this is going to get ugly. I think it is, because I can already see by his face what he thought of it. Zane. Yes. First of all, let's do a little introduction. So this film, The Matrix Resurrections, has been 18 years since the end of Revolution. Not in the story, I mean just since it was released. What is the story of this film?
This story is a continuation from the trilogy where Thomas Anderson rediscovers his identity as Neo, the one from, again, the original trilogy, and just rediscovering the events of what was the consequences of his actions after, saving humanity, saving Zion. What was the aftermath? What were the consequences of his actions? And why is he alive again? Why is he back in the Matrix? He ended the Matrix. Why is it? All these sort of questions. And we find out in a fourth movie.
We do find out. So let's start with you. Undisputed or disputed?
I might say disputed.
Okay. I'm undisputed.
Are you really?
I am. Yes. I really enjoyed this film. I really did.
Yeah, let's start with the positives. You go first.
So why did I enjoy this film? Okay. So I am I think it is safe to say I am a die-hard Matrix fan. The first Matrix, I know it sounds parable to say now, and it sounds like a ridiculous statement, but the first Matrix genuinely changed my life in the sense of the way I looked at the world and the way that I perceived things and the way that I thought about just the world as a whole. It really did open up my eyes to a lot of stuff, including filmmaking. It was the first film that I used to break down and analyze cinema. I did it as a thesis at my film studies class when I was younger. There's so many bits and pieces about the Matrix that was incredible and remains. It remains a perfect movie. It is always in my top 5 films of all time because I can watch it. I went to see it at the cinema like a couple of weeks ago. Still holds up. Still incredible. Still amazing. 2 and 3. 2 Reloaded I like, but there are really bad parts in it which drag like crazy. Really bad parts. 3 is a steaming pile of poop. It's just not good.
Yeah.
This film, right? So the reason why I liked this film was that they did focus on the evolution of the franchise, and it wasn't just a retread of it's the war against the machine and the humans again. It was completely different in that respect. It wasn't as action heavy as the other films, which I actually appreciated in terms of the maturity of it and where it's coming from. It was more about the love story between Trinity and Neo. It was also, I think Lana Wachowski kind of wrote it. I know that she wrote it because her parents died, and she felt she needed to process the grief of her parents dying in a way, and the way to do that was to bring back characters that she loved so much and have them get probably a happy ending from Revolutions, because Revolutions was not a happy ending for these characters. I loved what they did with this. I really enjoyed Keanu Reeves' performance in this. He's always been good as Neo, but I just really enjoyed him in this. I like the fact that they didn't hang on to it was the only there's a couple of things I didn't like, which are coming to my mind immediately, and then there's things that I did like about the thing. So again, the things I didn't like. So I didn't like Yahya Abdul-Mateen's performance as Morpheus in this. I did not like that. He wasn't Morpheus. He was. I mean, in every aspect, in every respect of the canon, he wasn't Morpheus. He was a program that was written by Neo to mimic Morpheus. That's essentially what it was, and to give Neo an out. Effectively, that's the whole idea behind it.
Yeah.
So I didn't like his performance. I thought it was a weird avenue to go down. So I didn't like that. I didn't like Smith being still an integral part of this, but as a different actor. Those two things I did not like. And whilst I appreciate the fact that they did go back with back to nostalgia kind of things.
Yes.
I didn't like them intercutting scenes from the previous movies in when they were having memories. I didn't. That bit annoyed me. I did get annoyed by that. I get why they did it, because it's 18 years old movie, so people might not remember it, or even young people might not have seen them.
Yes.
But so that annoyed me. I really like the idea of the meta. So that the whole idea was that in a way to suppress Neo's memories, they gave him the identity of a game designer who created the trilogy of games, The Matrix.
Yes.
And so I really liked that idea, because I like the idea of you never knowing if it's actually in his head or if it's actually what he did.
Me too. I really like that. I also, for some odd reason, I don't know if it's the wardrobe design or what, got some really weird Kojima vibes from from the way he dressed and stuff.
Neo?
Yeah.
Yes.
And then they used real sort of gaming industry props, like the Games Award trophy and stuff in it. So I really appreciated that.
Yeah, it was good. So yeah, I really liked that, what they did with the meta with that. I thought Jessica Henwick in this was amazing, like as Bugs. I thought she was fantastic. Carrie-Anne Moss wasn't in it that much.
Yeah, that's probably
she was kind of in it sporadically, but she wasn't really in it that much. Like visually and conceptually, I really, really liked the Machine City designs that they did.
Yeah.
And the pods, like the 2 pods that Trinity and Neo were in, like just how that looked incredible.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed the fact that, like I said earlier on, that the war has kind of evolved. So it's not just man against machine anymore. It's now splinter groups. So like the man has merged in a regard with machine. So there's 2 separate factions, and it's actually like now it's about an ideological war instead of a, you know. So there are machines who believe that war. So there's machines who believe that you can coexist with humans, and then there's machines who believe they're only a fuel source, and that's what the war is about, instead of it being a all of man is good and all of machine is bad, you know. And that's I really liked it, and it also explained away why the technology was much more advanced in this than it was in the previous movies, because now machine race is coming into it, and they have, you know, advanced technology that they are sharing with humankind. So,
which also adds weight to the conversation in Reloaded with Neo and the council member. So, you know, there's that scene where they go under Zion, and it's all the machines.
Yes,
that are like the life.
We need machines to live, and that kind of thing.
Yeah. And he's like, I see that machine over there. I don't know what it does, but I know we need it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You know, it's always been about that aspect of control. Is that do the machines control us, or do we control the machines? And then it's you see, because it's not Zion anymore. Interestingly, we don't really know what happens to Zion. There's no real revelation about whether, because this city, the human city that's in this, is Io. It's not Zion anymore. And they talk about Zion, and they say Zion was a city of war. And I'm like, okay, but where is it then? Like, what's happened to it? Because Io is incredibly technologically advanced. Like, they've got a fake sky. They can grow crops, which I thought was another good setup for how Neo and Trinity were alive again, was the using the matter to create other matter. Like, there was a lot of stuff that was really good and really well thought out, I thought. And I think people's main problem with this film, or because this film has been absolutely slaughtered by critics, like absolutely brutalized. It's currently at 66 on Rotten Tomatoes, I think, or 67.
And
I apologize
IMDb
if you hear noise behind me. My hamster's going crazy, so I apologize. Anyway, yes. So, anyway, this film, I feel like a lot of people were going into this film expecting it to be like the first one, and expecting all the basically the kung fu and like the shooty bang bang. And I don't. It was, look. Ultimately, is this film as good as the first Matrix? No, it is not. No. It was never going to be.
I was going to say, I don't think it was ever going to be.
In my personal opinion, is this better than Matrix 2 and 3? Yes, I think it is personally better than Matrix 2 and 3. I will sit down and watch this again, gladly, and I won't skip through any part of it. Whereas Matrix 3, I will not sit down and watch again because it's rubbish. I almost swore then.
Wow.
Matrix 2, I can sit down and watch the action sequences, like the Birdie Brawl and where he fights multiple Smiths, and the obviously the highway chases. The freeway chase is probably one of the best car chase scenes ever put to film.
Yeah.
But the Zion bit drags like you wouldn't believe in that film. The architect thing is so overblown and yappy. It's horrible.
It's just an exposition
dump.
Yes,
it is an exposition dump. Yeah, you're right. I'm really interested to hear your opinions on it, though, Zane, because obviously you weren't such a big fan of it.
Yeah, so I think for me, I went into this, based on the trailers and everything else we saw. For me personally, I thought this would be better than 2 and 3 in the sense that it's this whole question reality again. I know it's something that we've already answered, but to see someone else who, in a more modern setting and everything else, question their reality, I thought it was a real nice premise.
We'll talk about that in just a sec, yeah.
I think for me personally, the things I really didn't like, I know you mentioned Morpheus. Yeah, that wasn't something that really fit well with me, because being a fan of the Morpheus that we had previously.
Yes.
I wasn't exactly looking for a reskin of Morpheus. I wasn't going to go, he has to play this like Morpheus did, you know, but at the same time, it was really bizarre. And I know he's supposed to be a program, but for me, I was like, well, you could have put just Surf from 2 and 3 in that role, and it would have still been the same.
Yeah, I think it was. I think the idea was to have something that he was so familiar with in Morpheus that it would snap him out of it.
Absolutely.
That was actually another thing that, whilst you're talking on that very quickly before you carry on, that was another thing that annoyed me, was the idea that programs can be freed. That was like, why? So now we're doing programs can be liberated from the Matrix. And I get how they did that because obviously it's now the machines and people together.
Mm-hmm.
But it bothered me a little bit with that.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry, carry on, Zane. I apologize.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, it was that whole sort of premise, kind of I don't mind meta commentary, but the thing with this is that it told you straight away, like, it didn't really want to exist. Like, in the scene where they said, and I was really surprised that they actually said Warner Brothers want us to do a fourth game, with or without you, because they're paying a lot of money for it to be off the ground. I was kind of like, wow. Like,
I was surprised that they mentioned Warner Brothers by name as well. I didn't think they would do that, but it was interesting. Zane, what are your thoughts on the idea? So obviously we know from Reloaded Revolutions that the Matrix happens in cycles. So at that time, it was the 6th iteration of the Matrix that was in existence. Mm-hmm. However, when we come to Resurrections, it is the 7th iteration of the Matrix. This is no longer the same Matrix that we remember from the first 3 films. This is a new Matrix. So there are some situations that are different. There is no Oracle anymore. She has been purged in the end of the 6th iteration. There's no Architect either. The Architect has been replaced by the Analyst. Now the Analyst, he understands human minds. He's almost like an ultimate combination of the Oracle and the Architect, and has put together a new version of the Matrix that outputs incredible amounts of power for the machines.
Yeah.
That character, so spoilers ahead, guys. So that character is Neil Patrick Harris, who is also Neo's shrink. And he is placed there to control Neo, because he has worked out that he's worked out the anomaly known as the One is actually divided between Neo and Trinity. So without Trinity in his life, Neo has no mojo. But the best way to do it without causing disruption is to keep them very close together without actually ever having them together. Because if they get together, then oh boy, everything's going crazy. What were your thoughts on that as a plot device? And also, what were your thoughts on the new Analyst?
As a plot device, I didn't mind it too much, because I heard the theory before going in that maybe it is the combination of both of them. And that's why the coding at the opening goes down, because that represents Neo, but the coding that goes up represents Trinity, because
interesting,
the reverse sort of premise. The Analyst, I thought, was a terrible villain for this.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was like, this felt so cheesy to me. And the power of bullet time, but slowed down or something.
Yeah, that was a bit weird. Yeah, the slow-mo control was a bit weird. Yeah, I like Neil Patrick Harris. I think that I saw some people writing Neil Patrick Harris was fine in it until the last half an hour, where it seems like he was starring in a different film. Which I thought was quite appropriate, but I liked it. I mean, this is another thing. I'm glad they didn't just retread the same old, same old S. Like, it could have been, Neo has to go and see the Oracle. to get his mojo back, or Neo has to have an encounter with the architect to understand what's going on in the Matrix. And it wasn't that, and they evolved it, and it was something different. I agree with you. I don't think Patrick Harris was the best in this, although at the premiere, if you check some of the photos, guys, whilst you're out there, he wore the most fantastic suit I have seen at the premiere of this film. So go and check that out, because man, that boy can dress. Anyway, like, the end of the film is basically Neo and Trinity get together. In them getting together, they unlock the power of the One. What I thought was particularly interesting about it is it seems like she's more powerful than he is now, because she can fly, she can do all kinds of crazy jazz, and he kind of just seems to walk in the front door.
At the end, they both fly together. Like, they fly separately and they dance in the air, sort of thing.
Are we sure that's what happened, or did it go Mary Poppins style, where he just held onto it? Is that what happened?
No, they definitely flew off together.
Well, look, to give you some context of where this film sits in terms of the saga. So I'm going to go by Rotten Tomato scores. So credit for Rotten Tomatoes. So the first Matrix stands at 88% critics wise on Rotten Tomatoes. Certified fresh. That does surprise me. It's only 88%. To be perfectly blunt with you, I would have thought it would be more than that. The second film, Matrix Reloaded, is at 73%. I wouldn't agree with that personally, but it is what it is. The third film, Matrix Revolutions, is 35% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Is it really? Wow.
Would you like to take a guess where Matrix Resurrections is? What current? Like, I think we mentioned it earlier on. Do you remember what we said?
I think it's 66, wasn't it?
It is 67. I was wrong. It's 67%.
Oh, 67.
So by critic score alone, it is not the worst of the series. That award still hangs on Revolution's hat. Just to kind of give some context of that, the audience score for Revolutions is 60%. That's the worst one. The audience score for Reloaded is 72%.
Right.
The audience score for The Matrix is actually 85%, so it's less than the critic score. And the Resurrection score is 66%. So it's about bang on with the critic score, really.
Right.
So I think it's been slightly divisive, this film. I really enjoyed it. Like I said, I went into this having a good time. You know, there are some things about it that are not great. I enjoyed it much more than 2 and 3. 100% much more than 2 and 3. As far as what the future holds for the franchise, I don't think there is a future. I think this is the end. I mean, there's two contributing factors to this. One, I don't really see where you can go any further with the story. I just don't see it. Two, this thing's going to get absolutely slaughtered at the box office. I haven't seen the figures yet, but the reviews have been awful from the critics, and that does have an impact on box office performance. It came out a week after Spider-Man. And Spider-Man is just crushing everything right now, because it is a perfect movie that I've seen twice now, and it is incredible. So was this a good send-off to The Matrix? It was all right. It wasn't the best send-off it could have had in the world. I would have liked to have seen another masterpiece like the first one, but
wouldn't we all?
It wasn't awful. I really didn't. I didn't hate it at all. I enjoyed it.
Can I just bombshell some stuff right now about how my feels for this?
Go on.
Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. So
is that your feeling for it? Is it?
I feel like I'm going into a confession booth now.
Jesus.
The one thing that really annoyed me about this is
he's winding up, guys. Here we go. He's winding up.
Is some of the action in this, because, you know, like you said before, we weren't going to get the best kung fu wire work ever, because Keanu's a little bit further down the line, and everything else. But as an example, the fight sequence where the Merovingian comes back with his exiles. Merovingian, sorry. And
Merv.
they have a massive kung fu fight. They do this insane shaky camera.
Oh yeah, okay. Yes, I agree.
And I was just like, no, like, because considering historically speaking, it's had some of the best kung fu sort of action sequences ever. And I know you know, for example, the parking lot fight, there are moments where the camera zooms in to emphasize punches, but this was so bad. Like, it felt like a TV fight, like from, you know, a CW show like Arrow or
I agree. I agree 100% with you on the fight choreography and stuff. That you can tell they couldn't get Young Wo Ping back for this. Jesus. Yes, and also it makes me think that. So don't forget that this is the first Wachowski that is. This is the first time the Wachowskis are directing a film not together. Yes. So Lana is directing without Lily. I think it does go to show that probably Lily was the one who understood how to frame and film action properly. I mean, she's now obviously both of them are kind of trans directors, but Lily's now gone on to do art more. So she's a painter now, so she does more artistic paintings and things like that. And you can kind of understand that in the sense of like, yeah, maybe she knew how to frame a scene in her mind much better than Lana did. Maybe Lana is more about story, but also, conversation pieces potentially. Like, because I thought the dialogue in this was actually pretty good. Like, I thought the dialogue was pretty sharp in this film. But yes, you're right. It did fall down in some of the action pieces. Definitely, the one that got me was that's the other thing I did like. I did like the fact that we didn't have standard agents anymore. It was anyone can be an agent. Like, it was a hive. Like, I loved that. That was great.
I didn't like the bots. I didn't like the
bots.
I
really liked that idea.
This whole I thought it was a cheap way to do zombies in Matrix. I was like,
I like that idea a lot. No, I like that idea a lot because I thought, it's like any hardware can just be taken over. And then you don't, why make it a residual self-image? Like, why change it into an agent? You don't need to. It's much more effective to just be like, anyone can mess you up at any time. So no, I did like that. What was I going to say? The bullet train fight. I agree with you 100%. The bullet train fight was particularly shaky for me, where I was like, oh God, I'm going to lose my lunch. So yes, I agree. Like I said, the action was not good in this. Like, I'm not gonna forgive it. The first bit where Bugs is doing the agents in the program, that bit was pretty solid. That bit was
really
pretty good.
Yeah.
It's after that. I agree.
For me, I was like, I wish you'd spent more on the action than you did on Yaya's wardrobe. Like, if you didn't spend so much on these.
Somebody said Matrix finally gave us the first taste of a black Joker.
Oh my God.
Because his wardrobe is so outlandishly purple and weird in that.
And green, I can see that. I just really wish they spent more on the action. But there you go. And again, a bit like, it's a little bit of a nitpick, but when Trinity flies for the first time, it's very much like she's on a wire.
I thought that as well. Yeah. I thought that as well. Yeah, that's exactly what I thought. Yes. So
just to
interesting.
Give another perspective. I know some people like to use Internet Movie Database ratings.
Yes.
And on Internet Movie Database, currently, this is sit at a 5.9 out of 10.
That's about in line with where it's at on Rotten Tomatoes. It's like 60% roughly.
Yeah, so a similar sort of effect because the other movies, the original Matrix, is an 8.7 on here. Matrix Reloaded 7.2, and then Matrix Revolutions is a 6.8.
Interesting. Very interesting. Yeah, I mean, Revolutions is always the crowning turd in the water pipe when people talk about it. It's not a good film, and it really was. It just wasn't well done. But no, I mean, I think this is the first time you and I have ever disagreed on a film, like in terms of kind of disputed, undisputed. I'm trying to think if there's anything else.
I know we had a different stance on where Into the Spider-Verse was better than Far From Home. No,
Homecoming.
Home, the second one.
Oh yeah, Far From Home.
Far From Home.
I didn't say it was better. I said it was as good as. That was your big deal. Was like you were like, no, it's not as good as. It's not as good as. You can't have that on there because it's not as good as. I'm like, dude, it's totally as good as. It is totally as good as. Don't talk rubbish. Come on, Zane. You know
I've
these things.
seen the tomato scores. I went and checked to make sure it wasn't just me.
Oh, right, okay. Yeah. I wanted Zane to originally change his name to Zane I'm Always Right, but he wouldn't do it. He,
No, it's the problem. Full of the right stuff.
Back to the stockings again.
Here we go. Dirty jokes.
God. Right, guys. What did you think about Matrix Resurrections even? What did you think about Hawkeye? What did you think? Have you had any Nicolas Cage news from this week that we've missed out on? Keep us appraised. nerds.undisputed@gmail.com. You can catch us on all of the social medias. Well, I say us. I'm on Instagram and Twitch, and Zane is on a bunch of places. So
yes,
you can find me at Gentlemanly Gamer on Instagram and also twitch.tv/Gentlemanly Gamer. I do stream, but I am having a hiatus on stream at the moment until the new year. So come check me out in the new year. Zane, where can they find you?
You can find me on YouTube, Zane Taicho. You can find also Undisputed Anime. It's a podcast. The podcast where we like to talk about anime and manga. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Zane_Taicho. I've just done some videos on manga that are good for Christmas presents depending on the reading age. So if they're 6 to 9, there's some recommendations and so forth. So yeah, have a check out.
I'm gonna test a couple of friends of mine, including a family member. So shout out to my brother Simon, who is telling me that he's listening to the whole thing through. So this is going to prove it because we're right at the end. So if you hear this shout out, I know you've listened to it. And also to my friend Monkfish, who is out there in the world, who apparently listens to all of them. Let me know if you hear this, and then I'll know for a fact that you listen to them.
Also, whilst they're listening, they may as well give us a star rating. So if you're listening on iTunes, give us a star rating. And on Spotify, they've just introduced star ratings as well. So if you can, give us a star rating. That will just help us and help other people discover us.
But make it a good one, yeah, guys. We don't, come on, only 5 stars. Otherwise, we're just gonna have to delete those ratings out. Come on, don't waste your rating system. Honestly, come on. We all know it. Yeah, it's been a pleasure, Zane. It's been a pleasure talking to you about this stuff.
Likewise. Yeah.
It was nice going in cold, actually, and not knowing what you were going to say about Resurrections.
I was so tempted to text you because I left that theatre so mad. And especially, the worst part is the person, who checks your tickets and stuff, they said, oh, there's an end credit scene. So I sat through the end credits, and it's just a gag. And I was like, oh my God. Like, the people next to me was like, was that it? Was that all we sat through? And I was like, oh. And another experience I had is someone fell asleep during the movie, so you could just hear their snoring when Neo wakes up on the new ship.
All I'm going to say is that says a lot about the town that you live in, and I will not say anything about where he lives, guys, for obvious reasons. But that really speaks volumes about the town you live in. Is all I'm going to say on that one.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think that's it, isn't it?
I guess so. All the relevant links will be in the description down below. So if you want to follow us and follow our other platforms, all in the description down below.
I have no idea what we're going to talk about next week. I've absolutely no idea. We'll probably end up doing another tier list, won't we? Or that thing that I talked to you about. That might the trailers into movies.
Yes.
I thought it was a really good idea. I could think of at least 4.
Ooh.
Resurrection's going to be on our list. So, guys, I was thinking just to share with everyone out there, I would like to do an episode where we look at trailers that are better than the movies they're advertising. So I'm thinking in terms of things like, some people would say that the Matrix Resurrection, the trailer for that was better than the actual movie. I think Zane's probably one of those people who would say that.
Might be one of those.
There's other examples like Suicide Squad, the first one, where the trailer was better than the movie. So I was thinking we could do one of those where we talk about the trailer and the movies in a bumper episode. And as it is Christmas tomorrow, and we probably are going to have a bit of a lull in terms of what we talk about, although Kingsman is out. The Kingsman.
Oh, yeah.
So we might end up talking about that, but if not, then we'll probably do one of those bumper
A funny
episodes. Next week.
episode.
A funny episode. There we go.
Yeah,
Yes. So there we go. Anyway, guys, have a fantastic Christmas from everyone here at Undisputed Nerds. Thank you for listening this year and for supporting us. We really, really do appreciate it. You know, the growth this year has been very nice, and we look to enjoy giving you more content in the new year. So
absolutely,
keep listening, keep subscribing, keep reviewing, keep nerding,
and stay undisputed.
Stay undisputed, everyone. Stay undisputed, and we'll see you next week. Goodbye.
Ciao. Bye.